the most valuable thing anyone has is time.
So many real estate agents are trying to do all the heavy lifting themselves.
I feel like there is hustle mentality on another level.
Their 2025 goal was to work on the business as opposed to working in the business.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Clout Podcast. Today, we are going to be tackling something every real estate faces at some point, which is burnout. It is a tough topic to talk about, but it is an important one. So we're going to talk about sustainable success in this demanding industry. I am your host, Montana Duran.
I'm Blake.
And I am Nate.
Blake, are you excited to talk about why this issue is so important today?
I am. I think it's super important that we cover this because everyone goes through it.
Awesome. So, Nate, you've been around real estate agents for a long time now. So, why do you think burnout is such a widespread issue in real estate?
I think burnout is really prevalent in real estate because so many real estate agents are trying to do all the heavy lifting themselves. We've literally met real estate agents who take the photos for their listings. And there's nothing against that because they could be a fantastic photographer. But if you're really trying to avoid burnout and you're a real estate agent, you really need to learn how to delegate the different tasks. Also, I think that a lot of realtors underestimate the power of software. And I think that when you dive into a lot of these different tools, there's a lot of options to automate your work. And if you're able to find a really good software that you can take in tasks or manage clients or manage your open houses or do any type of lead management, that's going to significantly impact the way you do business and the burnout that you're feeling. So I think that's probably the number one thing is just not having the right tools in place and trying to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I feel like there's that like hustle culture with every realtor I know. They're all like hustle, hustle, hustle. There's all those like comedy reels, like I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Like how do they do all they do? So I feel like there is that just like hustle mentality on another level.
Yeah, I used to kind of be like that, and I do work a lot of hours. I do pull like on average like 10 to 12-hour days. But the thing is like what I'm doing right now, currently in the past 10 or 12-hour days, like it's building the systems so that in a month or 2 months from now, I don't have to do that. And I think that is the biggest payoff. I think that you could be working your butt off and you could be spending all of your time working in your business. But if you're not building the systems and spending all of that time making sure that the systems that you have in place to get your time back, if those aren't in place, then you're kind of just like digging yourself into a grave, and you're really going to find that burnout is going to make a lot of things unhappy for you. So all of this motivation that you have for selling real estate could eventually plummet because you are trying to run a business and not focusing on your passion of selling real estate. So I really do think that it's important to avoid the hustle culture to an extent. And what it really should mean is that you're spending time building the systems to work on your business and not in your business.
Totally.
You were going to take the words out of my mouth. I was going to piggyback into that comment because there is a client of ours is actually their 2025 goal was to work on the business as opposed to working in the business. And I think that's something that she came to realization with her partner because they do the staging, they outsource the marketing, but they write their own contracts, they do everything. And I was telling them it just doesn't make sense for them to do all that. Why don't you try to delegate your time and pay maybe just a little extra dollars to said transaction coordinator or said stager, and then just help alleviate that time so that you can get that time back. I mean, you're putting time in to build the systems, but you're trying to get your time back within that month or that next 2 months, correct? I mean, it's super important. And I think burnout is, we all go through it in different avenues, but the most valuable thing anyone has is time. And
yeah, I think like if you were to look at it, like what is more cool? Is it somebody who is vacationing all day and their business is running and it's completely automated and it's doing what a business is supposed to do? Or is it going to be the person that is locked in a dark room trying to work for 14 hours every day and losing relationships or whatever else it is. I think I'd probably take the vacationing and the automated business. So just one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dang, dang, Nate, you just called me out.
Why is that?
Why is that? No, because sometimes I think uh I try to do things like without a system, and then I realize it's caught up to me. But like over the past just coming back to work this week, I have taken time to be like, okay, I can't just go day to day to day. Like I've taken time to like build up stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, like I went to bed last night, was like, oh my God, like I got way more done today than I thought I did. Like everything, I even got some extra stuff done. So it is true, but I'm like, but I have been there before, like where you're just working in a dark room at 14 hours a night, like you're nobody likes you anymore, like you're just burnt out, you're just like a zombie apocalypse.
Absolutely. And I have been there too. And I'm not going to lie, there are some times where you have to do that in order to get to that next level, or making sure that you can build and sacrifice for this month so that 4 months down the line, you can make sure that you don't have to tend to something in that business. And things come up like here and there, especially when you're growing your business and building it. There's always different things that you can do, right? There was a system that we're building right now that is doing a lot of automation and outreach to certain clients that we want to work with. And even 3 months ago, this was not a system that was built. So over the last couple days, I was spending a lot of time building these systems. So, I mean, new things come up and new systems are needed to be built. So, I mean, it happens.
That's what I used to work at this company, and they were like they were really like they were Japanese based, and it was like my first corporate job. And I don't remember, I didn't know what I was doing, but we did have to learn this like lean Six Sigma. Do you know what that is? Like where you just make all your systems lean. So like someone's job was literally to go in, evaluate our systems and like say what could be done better. Like that was literally just someone's job, like because things can always be created. But yeah, that's interesting. So Blake, you're kind of so Nate, Logan, they're out here in California. You're in Boise. You're on the field more often. What do you see as the biggest contributors to burnout for agents? Because you're like dealing with agents a lot, like at shoots in your area. So like, what do you think that contributing factor is for those agents?
That's a good question. I think the biggest one is overloading schedules. Life happens, picking up your kids from school or whatever the case is. I think that's probably the biggest one. I also think that agents like to neglect their free time and their hobbies, so they spend a lot more time doing particular things within the business, but maybe they don't take the time to go for a walk, take the time to eat, take the time to go to the gym. All of these things can contribute to less burnout because you're leaving your space to do something else, but it's for your own personal gain, if you will. So I think there just has to be a happy balance between work-life balance, if you will. But I think those are probably the biggest ones I see on the forefront here.
That makes sense. Life happens to all of us. Like, yeah, life happens. This week does not look like sometimes your weeks can just change.
Yeah, I was going to say, why don't you talk about managing in the middle of crisis, since I don't think we've really talked about it, and just how you've been able to manage all the different things that you've been working on.
I would have to say probably not very well. Oh no. So I live in LA, and LA is on fire right now. And it was like the scariest thing ever, like because I was just sitting there editing my podcast, and then I get like a Amber Alert, like this is a warning, you gotta leave. And I'm from Georgia, so I didn't know what to do. So I think I just have been in fight or flight since probably like it's Wednesday today when we're recording this, probably since last Wednesday, I've been like in fight or flight. So my brain, I've tried to work every day. Like I tried to sit down and do my normal day, but like it's not working. But everybody's been posted on time and everything's got done. So I do think I know that like I care about what I'm doing, and it is like kind of a nice distraction, but it's also hard because my job is social media. And so like a couple clients have been asking me for trends, and my For You page is very depressing right now. And that's usually how I find the trends. And so all my things are just my city burning. And then there's also like guilt. You feel bad that my house is fine, I'm fine, just like plot twist, I'm good. But so many, like every person I know knows someone that lost everything that's had so it's just like there's also like guilt. But this weekend things, they were able to put them out a lot, so that makes you feel better. So like my brain capacity is kind of like I'm starting to feel a little bit safe or again, and then so I've been able to work more this week. But and then I feel like being involved in the community, like I do love my community here, and seeing how everyone's came together has been really nice. And I didn't even realize the title of this. It's like burnout. Oh my God. And someone sent me a fire emoji the other day, and the fire emoji triggered me. And so like there's just all these weird things where it's like this episode, like, no, but like being able to give back, like I took donations from my online community. They gave back. I literally dropped them off this morning. I got to donate money directly to a family that lost everything. So, just doing something is better than doing nothing. And right now, like I felt helpless, like, oh, what am I doing over here working on this social media stuff when everyone I know and care about is hurting? So it's just been a lot to balance, but you guys have been patient. It's been a nice distraction. You guys were really patient that other day when I had I don't usually cry at work, but I got a little teary on the podcast. So
It's okay.
it was also just like not sleeping. But so that's just the thing. Like, I feel like when things like this happen, because there's been so many times, I'll tie it back into burnout with my city burning down. I've been burnt out in life and I just grind, like not really cared about, just anything else. And then when stuff like this happens, it kind of puts so much into perspective. Like when stuff happens, it puts it in perspective. Like I was working on the podcast, and you know what? The podcast had to get delayed today, and the world did not stop. So like you have to take care of yourself before your life will give you an opportunity. Like life will make you rest if you don't take that time to rest for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's scary. And we're very thankful for everything that you have continued to do even during this time. But as we've said, take as much time as you need and do whatever you can or whatever you can't. Don't worry about it. But yeah, it's definitely a scary feeling being so close to such a disaster like that.
I truly in my life like never imagined something like this. I feel like it's like a war. Like all you hear is sirens and helicopters. Like it's crazy. The one thing I had randomly at Christmas like got this urge to do a solo trip for my birthday, which is at the end of the month. And I like almost didn't book it. I like was using all my Amex points and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not gonna have any point." Like I was like, but something was like, "Just do it." And I am so grateful at my past self for doing that because I need this now more than ever. I'm not going to have guilt about it. Like, I'm not, so like, I'm going away for a week to breathe cleaner air and like be free. So, yeah. So, that is one. Like, thank you guys for everything for this week. But yeah, it's definitely puts a lot into perspective. Like, okay, like the podcast is gonna be okay. Okay, maybe when I get to where I shelter, I'll finish. And Nate was like, just like, don't worry about the podcast.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. So just not about this anymore. So let's on to something lighter. I can't believe that is so funny and ironic that it is about burnout. I was not even thinking. That is kind of funny. You got to laugh to keep from crying. Nate, you have been around real estate agents for a long time and you know the importance of habits. What is one habit that every agent should have to avoid burnout?
I think there's probably a lot of different habits. I think it's going to depend on what you want to focus on, right? There's many contributors to burnout and they can come in many different forms. So if it's driving a lot or you have to go and show 5 houses in a day, or you need to send a bunch of contracts out. I think it's going to come down to really time management and being able to prioritize what it is that you can do. So I personally think that Asana is a really good software to use, and that's what we as a team use. So whenever there's different tasks coming in, you can just add them to your tasks. If you want to get a little bit more granular, you can have different projects and assign them there. You could put due dates and priorities to make sure that everything that you're doing is just on schedule. And I'm not going to lie, the last couple of days I was getting a little burnt out. But I quickly noticed what was going on, and a lot of it was just keeping a lot of tasks in my head. So I ended up just offloading a lot of that to Asana, setting it priority, thinking about my week as a high level so that I could delegate when I should be focusing on certain things. And it helped tremendously. So I think that if you could have any habit to avoid burnout as a realtor, it would be making sure that you have some sort of software, something to document the priority and the tasks, or the tasks and their priority, so that you don't have to keep it all in your head. And I think it works for a lot of industries, even outside of real estate. I think anybody could benefit from a system like that.
I think you really hit a good point on planning your week. I think if there is a way to forecast your week, I think that's super important as well. Obviously, with having Asana in our workforce, I think it really helps kind of delegate priority and tasks with that stuff. But I think you hit a good point on trying to really pursue what you want to get accomplished in that week is super important.
Absolutely. I think too, like if you were to look at the different tasks, you could get really stuck in looking at just one day. So I think that it's really important to look at everything with a high level overview and really prioritize the bottlenecks so that you can just get rid of that stuff, and then be able to move a little bit more fluidly. But there's definitely some things that are going to be on that list that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this, but I need to do this. And the quicker you rip off the Band-Aid, the better it's going to be. And it's going to just be the best thing for you, is just to knock it out.
When I started, I think the problem, and I face this, so I think maybe sometimes I just let me know if I'm alone. I underestimate or overestimate how long it's going to take me to do something. I'm like, oh, I can do this in 20 minutes, and then it took me actually 2 hours, and then I'm like, oh no.
Absolutely. So, something that you could do even in Asana is you can track the actual time. So whenever you start a task, and I know that you may not be too familiar with the agency collaboration because we haven't really worked with that directly. But I know Blake probably has seen it. But there was a time where Logan, Blake, and myself were working in this project called agency collaboration. And the purpose behind doing so was that we could send each other or add tasks to what one has to do. And then you could track the actual time. And so as soon as you want to tackle a task, you could just click the actual time, start it, and it's a timer, and it will track, the entire time. And you could, if you have reoccurring tasks and you want to try getting the amount of time you spend lower, you could use that to measure it. There's also some pretty cool things like on the analytics side where you could open up a dashboard and choose a user and just see like the time that they're spending on certain things. So I don't know. It kind of gets a little bit really complex, but if you know how to sift through all of the data, then you can really harness it. So
You always are emphasizing systems. And we do CRMs, things like that. Like, do you help directly, like agents, like you build systems for us, like you've built the podcast system, you've built the other one. Do you help agents do that like through Omni? Like, and is there, I know you do, so like that's like a fake question, but like, so like, yes, but like, is there a common theme in like what they're like everyone's lacking, or like what they say helps them the most?
yeah, so that's a good question. When we first, let me just kind of first dive into the whole systems and why we kind of started was we were I just like had this feeling that like workflows and automations were super important. And this was when Blake probably moved to San Francisco. And it was funny because my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, we were talking about automations and she was kind of interested in it. And she ended up learning ClickUp. No, what's the one that you use, Blake? Strategy with
Airtable.
Airtable, yes.
That's a complicated one.
Yeah, so Airtable's cool because it's almost like a Google Sheets, but a little bit more involved. So you can get pretty creative with it. But she ended up learning that, and she put her business onto all of that. So like across the globe, they use her systems and stuff. But at that time, we were using Asana, and I kind of just liked the UI of it a little bit more. So we dove into just kind of learning it kind of together. And I just ended up going full speed, figuring out just how rules worked and automations worked. And we started building it for ourselves, and we ended up building our editing process. So our editors, I think we've talked about it a couple times, where they just get notifications of what to do via forms. And that's how we do our listing media stuff. So we ended up seeing the power of that. Then we started tracking our individual tasks with like the agency collaboration thing. And then we've created a whole mess of other projects that we've used, like even for our brands, when somebody wants to have one of their logos or brands redesigned, we have an entire template. So all I do is click start new project, choose the template, and it has all the rules, and it involves or it adds our graphic designer on it. So it just makes it really simple. But as far as what we build for agents, we decided that we were going to have this software omni and create it to where that it could help agents manage buyer and seller leads. So our initial go at it was to build drip systems for like 3-day and 30-day follow-ups for interested buyers or sellers. So imagine having a landing page that had a home valuation tool on it. Somebody who was interested in that is probably going to want to sell their home. So they could use that tool. Agent gets a notification, somebody just filled this out, they could respond, they're in their CRM, automatically go into a drip system where it's constantly following up with this person, interested seller, and it's doing it all automated, trying to get them to book a call with you. Your calendar's connected, but it goes a lot deeper than that. And that's what we kind of started out with, but we have some goals to create some other systems that handle a lot of the day-to-day stuff for realtors, even like transaction coordination type stuff, so that you can have documents that get filled out and automatically sent to people, to remove having to use DocuSign, a whole bunch of different things that we can really just help realtors make their lives easier by using the systems that we create. So we're actually in the middle of creating more and trying to sell our CRM at scale, because we think that it's just time that people really know what we're trying to do.
I think that that is what I'm very glad to be learning a lot about is systems, and it's like organizing my life, and it's been great. So, Blake, let's say an agent's already burned out. How do you think they can begin to rebuild their energy and momentum?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, trying to simplify that task into smaller tidbits and trying to chip away at it. Like Nate said, usually this stuff takes more than 1 hour, more than 1 day to complete for these bigger tasks. So I think it's super important to try to minimize the bigger task at hand and try to dissect it a little more and try to put proper time allocations into that respective task. I also think that you should try to figure out what's working and what's not working, and the things that are working, try to double down on how to make that more optimized. I think with that being said, I also am a big advocate for finding free time for yourself. And if you can figure out those ways to get that more optimized, you're going to have less burnout in terms of business, hobbies, life, and you're going to start enjoying, things that you actually want to start doing. There's a saying, if you're not living, you're dying.
I love that quote. No, that's so true though, because a lot of people, this is what I just have recently discovered, because they're scared to go on vacation, but then when they come back, they're like so much more motivated, or like when you just, not even a vacation, like maybe like a weekend off, like you're grinding all Monday through Friday, then Saturday and Sunday too, like just taking even a weekend, you come back more refreshed, more creative, it probably, the task doesn't look so large if you take a break from it, Like I love that.
It's almost like a fresh pair of eyes. You take 48 hours, 72 hours off, and sometimes the task doesn't seem so massive. It seems quite small, and you feel a little more engaged with it.
Yeah, couple notes on that. I ended up coming across a video where there was this videographer. He was very skilled and he understood composition and editing. And this is kind of his workflow, was documenting and storyboarding his content. And he would end up going to the locations where he was going to film, and he would film all the different shots that he was looking for, and he would take them home. And then he would put them all on a timeline, and he would just kind of bunch them together and cut out a bunch of random things that he didn't want in these clips. And then he would stop there, and then he would get to it the next day with fresh eyes. And I thought that was pretty brilliant, because I've been there where I'm trying to shoot and edit, and I come back to it and I just don't like what it is that I'm putting together. I'm like, how did this even come about? And it's happened with photography and videography, where it's like I'm done editing something and I did all of this in the same go, and I am just like not liking it. So I think being able to have a fresh set of eyes is really important.
No, that's good. That's so true. That is so relatable too. So many times I'll be working on a video and then I just post it. I just think I'm like, okay, I want to be done with it. Like just a personal one. I would never do this for a client. And then never do it for a client. Like I'll just post it and I'm like, oh, just like, cause I'm done with it. And then like, I will take like a 30-minute walk and I would like think of think of something else I could have done. And I'm like, I should have just chilled. So Nate, as we like kind of wrap this up, what advice for someone who feels completely stuck? Like what advice would you give to someone who's feeling stuck, doesn't know where to start rebuilding, like they're feeling a little burnt out?
If I were in a place, I could probably just think of something that I would do personally. After being super tired and burnt out, I would put a pause on work and go spend time with my wife and dog and pray and read the Bible and go just peace out, because I think that sometimes you just can't let work run your life, and that's not what it's supposed to be like. It's not what life is supposed to be. And I think that a lot of times we could get caught in this cycle where that's where we're trying to spend a lot of our time, and I don't think that that's what we should be doing. There's a lot more creative and productive things that we could be doing for our own health, even going to the gym or something like that. Going on walks, it helps me too. So if you're going to start your day and you just feel burnt out, take a day off. Like I totally believe in mental health days, and I think that sometimes you could just choose you, and you should do that and prioritize that.
I love that. I also didn't know that. I think it's very sweet that you and your wife both bond over systems. That is so precious.
Just one of the things, but
I meant to know, but I meant to bring that up earlier because I'm like, they would bond about systems. That's precious.
yeah, well, actually, I mean, it's funny because a lot of times when I would create a system, I would have her look at it and be like, hey, check this out. This is what this does. This is what this does, and vice versa. So it's pretty funny.
Wait, I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay. So let's wrap it up with some key takeaways. I feel like this was a fun, like this is a great episode. Thank you guys for this insight. Because I have burnt out like 2023. There was a period of the year I did 2024. Like I want this to be the year where I don't have a burnout season, you know? We started with the city burning. I don't need to burn out, okay? I need to make it. What is your key takeaway for building sustainable success?
Systems, and making sure that you take the time to have fresh eyes for them. I think that if you can document your different processes and you can figure out how to automate it, do it, because you're going to have a tremendous amount of time of your life back in your pocket. So definitely a key takeaway today.
I love that. I love that. And then Blake, what is one practical tip that you would give to agents listening in?
Simplify your day. I think it starts at the forefront when you wake up, figure out what you want to tackle in that day, and try to maximize your time with that task. Trying to get you back time in your pocket, like Nate says. If you're not living, you're dying. Metaphorically, of course.
Well, technically, we all are dying. So, yeah, you're right.
Actually, did you see that Netflix about that guy who's slowing aging process, trying to reverse it?
What?
No, but I should.
I think his name is Chris Johnson.
Oh, he's like aging backwards.
Yeah, so yeah, he's actually trying to reverse aging, and he's been successful. He's a tech CEO. I think he actually had a company that purchased Venmo back in the early days and then sold it. So he's kind of just living in LA, but he has completely just dedicated his life to maximizing life and trying to live as long as possible. But yeah, it's he's trying to do it. He has proved being able to slow down the aging process doing some extreme stuff. So
Well, how old is he?
he's probably like 50 or something like that.
I'll have to look into that. Why don't you plug us with the link there later?
Yeah, so it's called Don't Die on Netflix.
No, I love that. I'm gonna look it up. Now I'm gonna watch it because I'm like, I'll take the supplements. I don't care.
Oh, it's a lot. It's crazy stuff. I'm talking like 4:30 wake up. He has certain light panels that do this stuff. He has like an entire laboratory in his house, and he's constantly getting treated and like taking medicine and human growth hormones, like a whole bunch of unattainable things. But it's just to prove so far that it's possible.
I feel like, what are you scared of? Like, what are you scared of? So, this has been such an important conversation. Remember, burnout does not have to define your career, it is a sign to recalibrate and come back stronger. If you are looking for tools to streamline your work and take control, you can check out our CRM or DM us, learn about all the things we offer with Omni. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, leave a really good review, rating, and Apple. Thank you guys for listening to the Clout Podcast. Bye.